Chapter 1. Nightmare begins. In the heart of a city where steel towers pierce the smog-filled sky, a lone figure sat quietly on a rusted bench near the police station. He looked like he didn't belong, a frail, tired boy with pale skin and sunken eyes, dark circles shadowing his gaze. His clothes were cheap, worn out, barely hanging on to dignity. But in his hands was something rare. A steaming cup of real coffee. Not the synthetic kind you'd find in the slums, but the actual luxurious brew reserved for the upper classes. He took a sip, winced instantly, and muttered to himself, "So bitter, should have bought some real meat instead." It was a small indulgence, one he'd spent nearly all his savings on, because today, he decided, was a day worth treating himself. After all, this might be his last day alive. The boy wasn't terminally ill. He hadn't picked a fight with a gang, but something worse had happened. Something that could kill him in a way the streets never could. He had been chosen by the nightmare spell. As the crowd around him rushed to work, tall, well-fed, confident, he stood out like a glitch in the system. Thin, sleep-deprived, and clearly from the outskirts of society. People glanced, then looked away. He wasn't worth a second thought. He finished the bitter coffee, tossed the cup, missed the bin, cursed under his breath, then walked over and dropped it in properly. That's when he crossed the street and stepped into the police station. Inside, the air was thick with apathy. An officer looked up, unimpressed. "You lost, boy?" The kid didn't flinch. He looked around, noting the hidden turrets in the ceiling, the reinforced walls, the way every inch of the station screamed danger containment, not safety. Finally he spoke. "I'm here to surrender myself, as a carrier of the nightmare spell." Instantly everything changed. The officer's face lost its color. He slammed a button on his console and shouted, "Code black in the lobby." I repeat, code black. Alarms blared. Officers armed themselves. And within minutes, the boy was strapped into a strange contraption deep in the station's underground chamber. Part hospital bed, part torture device. Around him, rifles were drawn. Faces were tense. But all he could think about was sleep. That's the danger of the spell. Once it chooses you, staying awake becomes a battle. And if you lose, you don't just sleep. You enter a world of nightmares. And if you die there, your body in the real world becomes a gateway. A portal. For something monstrous. Eventually, a gray-haired officer entered. Not like the rest. He had the look of someone who'd seen far too much death. He checked the restraints, looked the boy over, and asked, "Name?" The boy blinked slowly. "Sunless." The officer frowned. "That your real name?" "Close enough. Born during a solar eclipse. Mom had a poetic soul, or maybe she was just lazy." He chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Want me to call your family?" No one left to call. For a brief second, something flickered in the old man's eyes. But then his voice hardened. "All right, listen. We don't have time for formalities. You're seconds away from falling asleep. So hear me out and try to remember." He leaned in. "You're about to enter your first nightmare. It's a trial, not a dream. There will be monsters, but also people, places. It'll feel real. But none of it is. They're illusions meant to test you." The boy frowned. "How do you know they're not real?" The officer paused. "You might have to kill them. Think of them as illusions. It'll make it easier." The boy didn't answer. He was too tired. His head was nodding forward. The officer went on. "If you're lucky, you'll get a combat aspect. Something useful like a swordsman or a brawler. If your attributes match, strength, agility, endurance, you might stand a chance. But even if you get something strange, don't give up. Every aspect has its value. Some are just harder to figure out." The lights in the room seemed to fade. The boy's eyes were barely open now. "First thing you do once inside, check your stats. Aspect, attributes, anything the spell gives you. Learn fast. React faster. Survive." And then one final sentence. "If you die, something crosses over. So, do your best not to." The boy, now barely conscious, smiled faintly. "I'll try not to die right away. Wouldn't want to trouble the locals." And then, he slipped into darkness. Everything went black. And in that void, a mechanical, emotionless voice echoed. "Aspirant, welcome to the nightmare spell. Prepare for your first trial." The nightmare had begun.